Hello.
Hi, all. Welcome.
Hi. Welcome. This is episode 47. So crazy.
Right? We just keep
I
going.
know, I love it. Well, thanks for being here, guys. 47. So we've had a lot of talk between ourselves, between our professional work, personal life about clear communication, accountability, all that kind of stuff. So today we want to talk about a little phenomenon that happens a lot in unhealthy conversation, especially with our couples and some of those issues in toxic relationships. So it's called whataboutism.
What about ism?
Interesting word.
Yeah, you called it that, and I was like, I would just call it the tit for tat.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's what it is. That's what it is. And it's, you said like relationship. I think it happens in a lot of friendships, but a
Yeah,
lot of times intimate relationships for sure.
right. Okay, so I guess let's tell you guys what it is if you haven't heard about that. So it's basically a rhetorical tactic in communication where someone is trying to communicate with you, and instead of responding in a healthy or accountable way, you're deflecting or distracting or getting defensive. So let's go with an example. Do you want to give an example or should I give an example?
Give an example, like if you're like thinking with your partner and you bring up a complaint, right? And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm upset because I feel like you always leave dishes in the sink. And your partner's response is, I leave dishes in the sink. Well, you leave dishes and stuff on the floor and your laundry, and I always have to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're in a you do it, I do it.
Right.
Would that, is that what is an example that makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think that some people would say, okay, but I'm bringing it up because you have a complaint about me. I have a similar complaint about you. I'm just communicating,
Ab-
right?
See, that irks me. As soon as you said that, I'm like, fuck that shit. Because it's like what we said in one of the other episodes, like, whoever brings up the complaint, it is your stage to take.
Amen, girl.
It is your stage. So the fact that I'm bringing something up and now you want to bring up your complaint any other time, do it any other time. That's your job to be like, damn, okay, my bad. Didn't realize that bothers you. I'll work
Mhm.
on it. Or, hey, sorry, I got busy today. I'll plan on doing it later or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, simple. And then if you want to file your complaint the next day or at any other time,
hmm
that's fine. But I hate it because people do that. But my question for you is,
hmm
why do you think people do that?
I mean, not to take accountability, to get to be defensive. People don't like feeling criticized. I mean, it's human nature to want to be validated and admired. So
Mhm.
when someone is picking on something that they don't like about you, or it's a flaw or a behavior that they don't like, it's natural to flip it back on them and say, hey, here's a mirror, buddy.
Right.
You know? I think where it gets a little dicey though is if you're trying to point out hypocritical behavior, right? Like you're criticizing me for doing something you do. I think the way that you go about communicating that is very different. It's different to be defensive and say, hey, yeah, but versus interesting that you brought that up to me. My bad. I think we both struggle with this problem,
Mhm.
right? There's a difference in posing it that way because it could piss you off that I leave dishes in the sink and it pisses me off that you do it. But then it's a constructive conversation like, hey, you pointed that out to me. I think this is like a household problem. How
Yeah.
can we address that? Like, how can we work on this together? Because I didn't notice that I do it, but I think we both kind of have this issue,
Right.
you know? And I think that that's okay to say. But if you're not taking accountability and just flipping it back on the person who's presenting the problem to you, then that's not healthy conversation. That's not constructive.
Hmm. Well, I would say that's the difference between leading into a conversation versus an
Mhm.
argument.
Right.
Because if you're just going to do the example we gave,
hmm
there's no progress or resolution in that. It's,
Right.
well, you do it, so I do it. So I do it, you can do it. Instead of, okay, we can take ownership and talk about it.
hmm
And even if we both do it, and I'm
Right.
bringing it up. Like, let's just have a normal conversation about it bothering us and what we can do to work on it.
Right. Agree. And exactly what you just said. The original issue never gets resolved
Hmm.
because it becomes basically a boomerang. You put something at me and I'm going to return it to you. And it's also super invalidating. I think we've talked about this in several of our episodes, right? That someone has courage to bring something up to you and then you're like, "Okay, but yeah,
Right.
here you but." Actually, no. Actually, it's a you problem.
Hmm.
That doesn't reinforce healthy communication because, again, what would be the purpose of this person bringing something up to you again? To
Yeah.
have it flip back on them? That creates resentment. This is where that erosion of trust happens in a relationship too, because you want to trust someone with your feelings. You want to trust them that they're receptive to what you're sharing and the problems that you're trying to solve together. So if I can't share with you, we can't be honest about our feelings. How can I trust you with the concerns that I have in the future?
Right. Right. I think my mind goes a little bit everywhere when we're talking about this because I think that some people might say, well, yeah, what if it's a consistent pattern and I brought it up over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
but it still keeps happening. So then it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to bring it up and I'm annoyed now because it's like you do it too. Because I think what starts happening, and I think in relationships, when things feel unfair or uneven, is when we start getting defensive, right? So when somebody's not helping you out or willing to work with you, and then they bring up a complaint,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's normal, not that it's healthy,
Yeah.
but I think it's normal to be like internally, like, I do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I mean, I brought up the cleaning example. If
Yeah.
you're a person and your partner doesn't clean, doesn't do anything, is sloppy, is dirty, and you're like, I do everything in the house, and you're like, how dare they bring up something that I'm not doing when
Yeah.
literally I do everything? So
Mm-hmm.
I totally get when people have that annoyance and they'll bring that up.
Yeah.
And, but still, it's like not a healthy way. It's like, hey, we have to talk about, hey, nothing's ever done in the house,
Right.
you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And I think that defensiveness is a product of a lot of poor communication tactics that build over time. Um,
I think it would be resentment too.
I mean, that is what it is. Because then it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to be receptive to what you have to say, right?
Mhm.
I don't really care about where you're coming from because what you're attacking me with is exactly what you do, you know? And we see this, I think, a lot in people who have, some of that disordered personality mismatch stuff because that's where projection happens
Mhm.
a lot. And this kind of style of the whataboutism is so typical of people that have like personality disorders, where you're like, I'm just trying to be a good person and like ask you for help and awareness. And then they're like, okay, but
Right. Right.
because that there's none of that accountability. So
Yeah.
what do you do if you have someone in your life who is constantly whatabouting you? What do you do?
Well, I think that's when you have to figure out what the relationship actually is, which would look like looking at your boundaries,
Yeah.
checking yourself, like, do I really believe I'm communicating and I'm trying not to be defensive and I'm trying to bring stuff up
Yeah.
and every time I bring something, is this happening? Then it is you figuring out, well then maybe I'm not going to do it, or ask your partner, is this something we're never going to be able to talk about?
Right.
Let me know. And if
Hmm.
that person's like, well, no, there's no reason to, or what, it's like you're getting your answers
Hmm.
by looking at how you're going to handle that
Yeah.
that back that they're going to always give you. It's like, pause. Can you hear me though? It's like asking another person, are you willing to hear me? We've talked about that on like communication 101. Like,
Hmm.
are you willing to try to hear me without interrupting me? Are you willing to try to understand my perspective so we can have a conversation?
Hmm.
And if that person is totally like, no, then you have to ask yourself, like, well, then what am I going to do? If I'm going to be met with this response and they're telling me they're not going to work on it,
Right.
than it is your job to be like, well, this is who I'm with. And if I'm choosing that, okay. Or
Yeah.
hopefully that person on the other side, you can say, hey, like, I don't really want to have a conversation. And this is why it's hard to talk unless you're able just to listen to me this time. And I
I
think that's a good tool in relationships because once you slow it down and you just, if you're kind about it and you're like, hey, I get that you're a little defensive. I'm not trying to attack you.
mm-hmm.
I just wanted to bring it up to see if we can try to
Right.
start talking about it. I
Yeah.
think when you nurture it in a kind way, the other person can start, even if they are a little defensive or they have that pushback,
Yeah.
it's building their awareness to be like, oh, maybe
Right.
I am feeling attacked. Okay, maybe I am. I do get defensive every time. And
Yeah.
it'll help you see, are they going to work on it too?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I like what you said about the wording because that is really important. And this is, I feel like, a good communication skill that everybody should practice. Just being able to advocate for what you want and redirect back to the issue that you're bringing up because it's so easy to get derailed. So, saying something along the lines of, I hear you, we can get to you later, but we're
Mhm.
trying to talk about original issue here now. I'd love to hear what you have to say, but like, let's make progress on step A before we continue.
Mhm.
Um, and I think what's hardest is to just stay grounded in your conversation. You can't chase that redirection that's happening because that's what this person wants. Like, let's just continue with your example. I don't want to talk about how she feels that I left dishes in the sink. So let me put it back on her and hope she takes the bait because
Right.
now completely switched gears. You're on a different track now, and now it's not only dishes, but now it's laundry and ancient history that happened ages ago in your relationship and the way you talk that one time and this argument that you had. And now what you brought up innocently to try to problem solve together is gone.
Right.
So that's one of the hardest things to do because of course it's agitating when someone's like, "Yeah, but you. What about you?" And you're
Absolutely.
like, okay, well, now my defenses are up. How
Right.
dare you? You know, that's the hardest thing to do. So stay super firm that we're walking into this monologue. I guess it's not really a conversation because you may not want a conversation. You just want to be heard. So,
Right.
you're walking into it with one goal in mind, and that's to talk about this one thing. And
Right.
you can go one of two ways in responding to that. What about you?
Mhm.
Okay, you want to have a long conversation about that? Bring it on. You can take the bait, but chances are you're going to end up resentful because you never address your problem. Or you can just say, no, we're not here to talk about that right now.
Right.
You feel that way? I'll hear you out after you hear me out. Cool. And avoid escalating because it's so easy to say, oh, yeah, the dishes, oh, okay, and the laundry, and the house, and the leaves don't get raked outside, and the baseboards are dusty, and the toilets, and now you're in a war, and it didn't have to start that way.
Exactly.
It's crazy how something so, like, simple can
Yeah.
trigger and, like, offset this whole thing. And
Uh,
that's why you need boundaries.
yeah. And I would say, I think one of the most necessary and hardest tools in this, because I practiced this and it took me a long time to realize like, oh, it works and like I'm practicing it has helped me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be, because criticism is a thing that triggers me. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely in my history. I'm definitely sensitive when something
Mm-hmm.
even comes off like it could be. Not even that it is, that it
Yeah.
could sound like, or if it's questioning me, it's like, are they doubt, like, is it criticism? Like, why are you asking me this? Whatever.
Mhm.
But the thing I've had to practice, which I definitely think is healthy for all of us, is I have to meet myself where I am. And there's plenty of times where like I've had to close my eyes because I know I'm triggered.
Mm.
And I've had to say, I hear you, but I cannot have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
And that's me just knowing I feel too much and I'm either going to be nasty, defensive, rude. I don't give a shit about your side
Mm-hmm.
because now I feel all this other stuff coming up.
Yep.
And for me, pausing that and being very conscious of now's not the time for me to be able to fully have this conversation, but I hear you
Mm-hmm.
and trust that my irritability is leading me to say, don't do it right now.
Yeah.
And then the next day, usually once that settles,
Yeah.
I'm like, the next day can be like, hey, everything's settled. I thought about what you said. It
Yeah.
totally makes sense to me. And I'm in a better headspace because that trigger doesn't have my emotions heightened.
Right. And see, I love that too because that's modeling accountability, right?
Hmm.
You're being accountable to yourself that you're not in a regulated place emotionally
Hmm.
to engage in a conversation where there may be judgment or there might be criticism. It's so easy to just want to be the drama and want to get in a fight and be like, okay, come at me. It's fine.
Right.
I'll return it and dish it back to you, which,
Hmm.
sounds good sometimes. You're like, hey, bring it on. But
Right.
you're going to get so far away from the purpose and the intention of a conversation with someone that you care about and communicating things that you need support on or you need to see change is not to, you don't want to generate conflict. You don't want resentment to come up. It's let's have healthy discourse.
Hmm.
Let's come together on something. Can you meet me in the middle? I mean, relationship and communication is a lot of the time about compromise.
Right.
Like, you know what? I struggle with the dishes. I hate doing them. I want to put it up for later. I'm a procrastinator. I hear you.
Right.
Is there something else that I can trade you responsibility wise so I don't have to do that because I struggle doing it? That could be a compromise,
Right.
right? But the whatabouts is so hard because you really want to be like, okay, no, this feels embarrassing. It feels like I'm cornered. That's
Yeah.
not a comfortable place.
Right. And I would say, like, it's hard because I think we're just wired. And, like, at least for me, a definitely younger version of me, but I've worked on this. And I will say this, sorry guys, TMI, but when I'm on my period or like the days before, I know, like I know myself very well at this
Mhm.
point to be like, there's certain days I cannot control my emotions. Like, my
Yeah.
irritability around that time is so much where I can feel myself just wanting to pick a fight because I'm annoyed of everything. So,
Hmm.
like, if somebody brings up a criticism,
Yeah.
my mind goes to, well, you want to tell me about me? Let me tell you about you.
Right.
And that's exactly what this is
Yeah.
conversation is. Like, I'm not in a place to hear anything critical, or actually, even if it's not critical, I'm interpreting that, or for you to bring something up when I don't have the energy and everything's already irritating me,
Hmm.
pisses me off. So my defense is like, oh, you want to bring that shit up? Let me bring the shit up that bothers me.
Right.
And that's just not healthy. And I'm at fault of this when I get in those moods too, but it's
Yeah.
practicing, like I will straight up be like, I am on my period and I'm in no place to be nice.
Right.
So, like, there's no reason for us to talk about it because I will try to come at your neck
Right.
and I'm just going to stop the conversation. So that's our boundary. Like, when I'm on my period, like,
Yeah.
no hard conversation is going to be had in a 3 day span of that. But
Hmm.
it's learning yourself to know where you are.
Yeah.
So, like, I have to stop that part of me that's like, fight that person, fight that
Yeah.
person. Like what you said, you kind of want to be like, oh, really? And
Yeah.
it, like, because you think it's going to feel good, but it's like, what are you doing?
Hmm.
Fighting for no reason. Like, you just want to be mean and nasty because you're just tired or depleted. And
Right.
you want the misery loves company stuff. Like, I'm miserable. You just set me off. So let me bring you down with me.
Yeah. Agree. So, what's your thoughts? Because I think that this whole dynamic and this rhetorical style happens a lot when you hit that couple, we need couples counseling, we need relationship counseling stage. And that's kind of what makes couples work really hard because you're basically being a referee between people that are like, okay, well, he's being sketchy with his phone. Oh, yeah, but she doesn't want to talk to me. Yeah, but then he's out doing, I don't know, stuff with the boys. Yeah, but then you just want to stay in bed. And we don't, it's the tit for
Good for
tat.
that.
And my needs are not met. Yeah, but what about me? And then what about me? And you don't pay attention to me and you don't do X, Y, and Z. So, do you think that this happens naturally as part of relationships that are in turmoil? Or do you think that this is a product of people just never having the intention to work together, never having the intention to learn how to communicate in a healthy way? In other words, do you think they started out healthy most of the time and then ended up here because things deteriorated? Or was it always unhealthy and they just never practiced skills and now we're at each
I
other's throats?
definitely don't think it's relationships starting out unhealthy. I think I would say, in my perspective, it's you're in a honeymoon with somebody, everything's good. You kind of don't bring stuff up because you think it's no big deal. And you're in la la land because you're all high off the love chemicals. And then
Mhm.
that fades, and then you have that power struggle stage. And that power struggle stage is my favorite because I'm always a sucker for your first fight or your argument because it's going to show
Yeah.
you your fighting dynamic. And I don't think it has to be an unhealthy couple.
Hmm.
I think that that stage is going to show you where you're wounded and
Yeah.
you're different than your partner. So, like when I'm looking at couples in counseling, I'm trying to figure out their dance, like what you're kind of saying, that boomerang, but I call it a dance. Like there's those certain dances that couples get in, and I'm like, what is the root of those dances? Because usually they have a similar pattern of the
Yeah.
emotion that the person feels. Like every time he does this, I feel like this. And the
Mhm.
story I make up is this. And then you actually get to see the deeper stuff going on. And then they'll tell a story for sometimes it leads back into history. Like, well, I've been criticized my whole life. And the next thing you know, people are talking about themselves. And then couples become more empathetic. And then you can see your partner in a different light. Like,
Mhm.
I maybe am not being critical, but she tells herself something. Now I see what happens when I talk like that. And
Sure.
then you have that sense of understanding where it causes empathy. And then you know, like, oh, it's not even me.
Yeah.
Like, my partner is just, this is something that they struggle with. And so when I do this, it triggers them and they go into that state. So I
Yeah.
would just say it doesn't have to always be, I don't think it always has to be like toxic or like red flaggy. I think that effort, I think that's the phase where you get to see is somebody's effort to work with you and to try to learn communication skills or understand you on a deeper level going to happen? Or are
Mhm.
we going to be tit for tat forever?
Right.
Or are we going to sweep shit under the rug and act like everything's fine and dandy? And when
Mhm.
that stuff starts happening, that's when I think the toxicity starts building from
Yeah.
that moment. Like, oh, now we've been together for 20 years and let me bring up what happened when we first got together because we've never talked
Mhm.
about it. And
Mhm.
that's when I think years down the road, people come in and they're like, I don't know, we've been together for years and we've never really talked about any of this stuff. And you're like, okay, so when the power struggle stage hit, neither of you had the effort to figure it out. You thought it was normal to just be tit for tat. Oh, that's just, how many times I hear, well, that's just a relationship.
Mhm.
I'm like, tit for tat is not a healthy relationship. I don't want to tit for tat all the time. I
No.
understand it happens, but we have, I think, old school way normalized that marriage is so hard in the sense of you just fight with each other all the time. Not
Yeah.
marriage is hard. In my perspective, marriage is hard because you're constantly having to work on communicating and understanding each other.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of what you said is so important about, well, they never brought it up, so now it's becoming a what about this?
Yeah.
Because you have basically like a Rolodex of, okay, let me go find that one time because I never brought it up to you. And this is a perfect time because you're bringing it up to me. Wait, now I have this memory of six different times that you pissed me off doing the same thing, and
Mhm.
let me put it back in your face. So that's why it's so important, and I think this is one of the antidotes to this kind of communication style. You need to speak up when something happens, not later, not 6 weeks from now, not in a few days, unless you can, like you say, be honest. I'm not in a headspace to talk about this right now, but I'm tabling it. We're going to come back to it. I'm just not going to file it in some deep recess of my mind to use against you as a weapon
Right.
later. So if you guys feel like you get stuck in this, what about kind of stuff? What about you? What about this time when? The best thing to do is start just bringing things up as they come. Hey, the way you just said that to me, don't love that tone. Hey,
Period.
remember
And it's like
earlier?
how that episode where we put periods on everything.
Yep.
I always say if you don't trust that your partner is going to be able to be healthy and communicating back. If you're worried and nervous and you have voices, like don't bring it up because you know how they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Be vulnerable and be like, hey, I'm upset because there's dishes in the sink and I brought that up and it bothers me. Period. Walk away.
Right.
Because then you're not going to get drug into the, well, blah, blah, blah. You're just going to be like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I wasn't here. That's your boundary. I don't want to
Mhm.
have a conversation. I was just letting you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I love that because it's also low pressure. Like, I feel like another thing that comes up so often, and guys, communication can be so easy. It really can. It doesn't have to be that, hey, we need to have a talk about
Mhm.
everything. Just like you said, hey, this one little thing, it's kind of on my mind, it's irking me. Like,
Mhm.
can you either fix it or like think about it and we can talk about it later, but like, it's just annoying.
Yeah. Simple. I always say start with that. I think people need to start with that because it helps you be able
Mhm.
to have the later down the road, the deeper conversation around it. But if you don't
Yeah,
even do that, then and now everything feels so big. So people
yeah,
have that dread of like, this is going to be a 4 hour fight conversation and I don't have
right.
time
Just
for it. Blah.
starting with the damn dishes.
Right.
Doesn't
And the
have
next
to
thing you
be.
know, we're fighting all night. So I rather just not bring anything up. And it's
Right.
like, how do you just start dropping this? Like, hey, babe, this upset me. Just wanted to make you
Mhm.
aware. Hey, or like I've done stuff like this where I've been like, I'm upset, I'm anxious about something, but I don't have the capacity to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I'll say, I did it to my man once. I was like, hey, I want to bring something up. I don't have the energy to go in a conversation. I would like if you would respect that. And I would like to go work out after. And it worked perfect. I told him what bothered me. I'm like, the other day when this happened, this really upset me. I started getting teary eyed. I was like, and I just wanted you to know. And I just don't want to talk about it now. I just wanted you to know. And he went, okay. Do you want to go to the gym now? And I went, yes. And I
Mhm.
felt just like, even, I'm like, okay, we didn't do anything with it.
No.
But just me saying it and him just saying, okay,
Mhm.
heard me. And then the next day he was like, oh, about that thing you said yesterday, can I say something? And then we had a normal conversation. But
Right.
like you need to put those little things in or else people do. They go down the tit for tat
Yeah.
and then you're doing the exactly what we're talking about is like now we're just bringing up a whole bunch of shit and I always say we're trying to one up each other.
Right. Yeah.
Don't be a one upper.
Numbers don't win.
Don't be a one upper.
Yeah, don't do it. But yeah, so lots of good ideas. I think keep it simple. Just get your thoughts out there, put your feelers out there, and see how those things are received. And you
Yeah.
can work your way up to a conversation if necessary.
Yes.
But one upping on criticism, never going to work.
Don't one up. Don't what is this called again?
Whataboutism?
Don't be a whataboutism person. Don't fall into whataboutism.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Let's have healthy communication. So, okay, guys, well, give us your thoughts. If you are a whatabouter, please share. Give us your examples of how you're working through it, and we would love to hear from you as always. So, until next time,
Until next time.
bye, squad.
Bye, squad.